It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump.
So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up.
It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Janice Levenhagen Seeley is here to talk about ChickTech. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for listening. Before we begin, a plea for reviews. If you like the show and it has somehow been nominated for a podcast award twice, please leave a review on iTunes. It would really help get the word out about the podcast and help the podcast grow. And isn't that what we're all trying to do? Just grow a little bit. Now, on to today's guest. I was wandering past the booths at Comic Palooza down at the vendors and exhibition area, and I walked past this banner that simply said ChickTech. And I was like, what is this? It is a nonprofit geared toward helping women stay in technology-based careers and help girls pursue tech careers. Now, having worked in IT and seen the sausage fest that occurs in a lot of technology-based areas, I mean, even podcasting tends to be heavily male-dominated, it's nice to see that there are more women coming into the industries. Unfortunately, sometimes women are pushed out of the careers they want, or stereotypes are perpetuated about women in tech, just like they do with women in comedy, which is complete crap. Women are funny, women are capable, women are very technologically adept. My wife is much more technologically adept than I am. So I'm glad I'm able to talk to the founder of ChickTech and see why women are leaving tech-specific industries and what we can do to create more of a balance. So let's talk ChickTech with Janice Levenhagen Seeley. It seems like I live here in Houston, there seems to be quite a few women in tech, but what exactly is ChickTech doing to get more women involved in tech careers in the tech industry?
So ChickTech works on multiple different levels. So we actually run a high school program for girls who aren't yet engaged in technology yet, but who have the aptitude to do well in it. We run that in all of our cities right now. That's working more on the pipeline. Then on the retention side, we actually work with women who are already in technology or looking to get into technology and keeping them there once they're there. Because although both sides may stress one side or the other, it's definitely both a pipeline and a retention issue. We also do culture consulting for companies who are looking to become more inclusive, so that we can create welcoming environments for everyone. Our philosophy is that women and girls or other diverse people shouldn't have to change to fit into technology. It should be a great place to work, regardless of gender, ethnicity, disability, etc.
Well, one of the things that it says right in your little statement that I was reading, your mission statement, is retaining women in the technology workforce. Is there an issue with retaining women in the workforce? Is it something that is cultural, or is it just a statistical anomaly? Why is it so difficult to retain women in a technological workforce?
Definitely. So there is a very big issue. We see, based on statistics, that women leave technology at twice the rate of men, to the tune of 56% before they reach year 10 of their career. And considering we start out with much fewer women than men in the first place, losing half of them is crazy. So we're losing this amazing talent who enjoy the work. It's not the work that they're having a hard time with. It's the culture. It's a culture that's not valuing them, that's looking at them as if they don't have the same skills as men do, or they don't have the same inherent aptitude as men do, or they are devalued because they need to leave to take care of their family, which women still do a lot more than men, although I believe that's getting better, which is great. It's just all these little things that add up that make women decide that there has to be a better place for them to work than technology.
And here in Texas, I live in Houston, which is a huge technology area. I can see where that could be an issue because we call it the good old boys network here.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
is that a large part of the problem? How prevalent is this sexism going through? Because I was hoping it was more of a cultural thing where we just assume that girls aren't good at tech, so we don't put them in tech programs, and that's part of it. But it seems like they're once they get there, they're having these obstacles to overcome. How prevalent
Yeah.
is the
Well,
sexism?
yeah, so that's the Good Old Boys Club is definitely a big issue still in most fields. You look at most Fortune 500 companies, and they're not run by women. It's when you're talking about the what keeps girls out of technology is the idea that girls aren't as good as at tech. That doesn't leave just because they enter the technology industry. There's still that inherent sense. And when I talk to people about this, and I talk about, they're like, oh, well, will this be fixed in 5 years? We're talking about a huge societal issue that goes back to the dawn of humankind, right? Women have always been treated as second-class citizens, as, property, as people who aren't as, they're too emotional. They don't have the logic. They can't own land. They can't take these big jobs because they just can't handle it. It's you see all these things that that really add up to, in everyone's mind. If you look at unconscious bias, it adds up to this picture of women just not being as competent. When in reality, I have so many women around me that are amazing, and I see what they can do, and I see how passionate they are, and how intelligent and skilled they are, and that's absolutely not the truth, that they're less just because of their gender.
Well, absolutely, because I not only are they working these very difficult technical jobs, which they are just as capable as men, but then often they come home and they're kind of still relegated to traditional positions where they're in charge of doing all the chores and running the household and the kids and like you said, it's changing, but I don't think it's changing enough. And so the idea that they're not capable is just outrageous and crazy to me, because every woman I know is like 10 times more capable than I am. I mean, I have a hard time running my day, and I don't really have that much going on. So when I see my wife, who works in oil and gas, do all the stuff that she does, and then still come home and we try to share as much, but she's super anal about certain things. So if I don't clean the house nearly as nice as she'd like, so she's still doing all this extra work, despite the fact that she's doing all this hard stuff at the office. So to say they're incapable is just crazy. And I'm glad that I was able to run into your local chapter here at the local comic book con. That was where I met Nancy with ChickTech, and that is who I'm speaking today with ChickTech. Janice Levenhagen Seeley. She is the founder of ChickTech. And I love the fact that this is a great initiative for women and girls, because you're not only just dealing with people in the workforce, but you're also doing things to get more women into the workforce. What kind of things are you doing on the high school level?
So at the high school level, we run a year-long program for 100 high school girls in each city. We, at this point, have 12 chapters running this program starting in November. And we really look for girls who need us the most. So we're not necessarily looking for the girls who are the usual suspects, but more the girls who have been subtly or sometimes overtly turned away from technology because they're not techie, or they don't have the right personality, or they're afraid that they'll be stereotyped in a negative way if they say they like technology. And we bring them in and we provide them with all these opportunities to learn about technology with 99 other girls just like them. So we're working on building them a community. We're working on providing them with that sense of belonging that's so often missing for both girls and women. We do workshops, we do mentoring, and we're kicking off an internship program next summer for companies who are interested in helping these young women to learn more about what a technology environment can offer them.
How do you identify these girls that you say that have already been excluded or have been kind of subtly pushed away? How do you identify them versus the ones that have jumped in with both feet and are doing fairly well?
So what we've noticed is that the same girls get nominated, or they opt in every time. So teachers just have their go-to girls they say, oh, this is a tech opportunity. This one girl's in the robotics team. I'm going to let her know about this. Or this other girl's always, she always does electronics with her dad, and I'm going to, let her know about this opportunity. And, the other 95% of the girls or more never even hear about these opportunities. So what we've done is we've partnered with high schools in all of our different cities and surrounding areas, and we've asked teachers to nominate the girls they aren't nominating for other things, but who they feel have the aptitude to do well in technology. So we let teachers nominate up to 15 girls. We look for sophomores and juniors. We look for at least 30% of the girls should be eligible for free or reduced lunch, and that they shouldn't have a lot of tech experience yet. And we actually let the teachers decide. We also focus on, we look for programs like programs for teen parents. We look for other girls that have been marginalized in some way, shape, or form that are in different programs to help them and give them yet another opportunity. And what works really well is that these girls then all come together in this one particular place, and it's like a melting pot. So we don't just have girls of a particular skin color or background, or that they live in a particular part of town, or their parents don't make enough money to allow them to go to particular opportunities. We have all of those, and we have them all in the same place, and they all believe they've been chosen based on aptitude because they have been, which is a lot more powerful than saying, your parents don't make enough money. We think you're going to fail if we don't have you in this other program. So this is us trying to help you not fail. This is, our program is more, we think you're amazing, and your guidance counselor, your science teacher, or your English teacher also thinks you're amazing. Come to this program because we want to connect with you. And that's a lot more empowering and gives them a boost of confidence even before they enter our program.
Right. You're rewarding them on talent, not circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. And even though, we do skew a little, right? Like we try to work with schools that do have more at-risk youth, or we work with programs that work with more at-risk youth. But in the end, even though we've skewed it, we're still, in the end, looking for really amazing, talented young women, and that's who are in our programs.
And what kind of things are they doing in the program? So you've got this melting pot, like you say, and they all come together. What kind of things are they learning, and what kind of things are they experiencing?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different workshops that we do. Our goal is to have everything we do be as hands-on and project-based as possible. So our goal is that they come out of every workshop that they're in with us with a project they created that will give them yet another boost of confidence. And what I always say is it's not so much what they're learning, it's how they feel when they're learning it. So we provide really high quality instruction, and they learn some amazing things. But in the end, what will help them to choose technology as a career is more, were they happy? Were they excited? Did they feel included? Did they feel like they would succeed in a career like this? Or did they feel stressed out and anxious and like they were all alone? It doesn't matter how old we are. Most of our decisions are going to be based on emotion because we're human, right? And so we try to create this really welcoming, empowering, and inclusive experience that gives them these positive emotions so that they'll want to do technology because it's a place where they'll be happy. However, on the workshop side, we do things like drone workshops, we do Internet of Things, soft circuits, robotics, we do web programming, we've done video editing. We did what I call a meta workshop at one of our kickoff events last November, where we had 7 workshops going, and all the girls were in one, except for 5 or 6 girls who were in this meta workshop where they actually learned how to use video equipment and edit videos and make electronic music. And they went around and they did this whole show where they interviewed all these other girls at the other workshops about their workshop. So it was pretty cool. So it's a little bit more tangential than we might otherwise do, but the girls had a lot of fun, and they got to create this video that we still show people to this day about the experience. And trying to think of what others. Every city does different ones based on what their volunteers want to do.
Oh, sure. I could.
So
Well, I could see like you're in Portland, and so that's a lot of tech folks. And if in California, if they're in Silicon Valley, they'd be doing a little bit more, tech things as far. But here in like Houston, it's definitely going to be more of an engineering, oil and gas kind of probably centric situation. It all depends on what the industries are in the area.
yeah, or the technology associated with oil and gas, right? So it'd still be technology focused, but just different industries and different things that affect their lives or their parents work at, which helps to create that different connection that will hopefully sway them a little bit more.
Well, the goal is to get them to love science and love technology and hopefully choose that as a career. But you, like I said, you've also got the retention part going on. You have a lot of professional events, not just for people who want to think about careers in technology, but people who actually have careers in technology. And I noticed a couple of the workshops that you had are quite unique as far as what you would think of needing in the workplace. I saw that you have imposter syndrome workshop and a negotiation workshop, which I think are two skills that, well, one's a syndrome, but that there are two things that definitely women need to know about and to work for and understand better. So talk about not only the imposter syndrome workshop, but the negotiation workshops that you do.
Yeah, so every city runs different things just for both the high school girls and the career level women. And so when they choose to do workshops, they get to choose based on what's around. So it could be public speaking and what people want, of course. It could be public speaking. It could be something on imposter syndrome or negotiation. It could be around Agile. It could be around a particular technology. We did one here in Portland that was iOS versus Android programming, and they got to do an app in both and, compare and contrast. And we've done movie showings and, around the gender gap in technology. We've done, we just did a trivia night up in Seattle to raise money. The Seattle chapter had a girl who needed a sign language interpreter to be at our event so that she could participate. And sign language interpreters are really spendy. And so they raised almost $5,000, I think on Tuesday, whatever the 28th was. And they raised money to be able to have even more girls who need sign language interpreters for this next school year. So we tie in our career level stuff with our high school stuff in various ways. But the goal of the career level events is just like with the high school girls. It's not just to educate, but it's to provide that community and sense of belonging that women need as well, because that's, again, what's really a lot of what's missing. And I have one volunteer who was having, she was feeling uncomfortable at work because of something that somebody was doing, and she came to me later and she's like, I wouldn't have gone to HR if I didn't have ChickTech. I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing it, because she felt like she had this community that had her back. And I don't know how many people that happens to on a regular basis, where they have something that's making them uncomfortable as a woman in technology and they don't feel like they can do anything about it. And so if we can provide them with that, we're doing a huge service both to them and to the industry.
Well, I think it's important that even with all the workshops and you're getting people involved, the most important part of this whole thing is changing the culture. What are you doing to get the companies that these ladies work for, or potential companies they may work for, how are you getting them to change the culture of the good old boy network to something where women want to work there and want to stay there?
Yeah, so we do a couple different things. Obviously, on the more indirect side, we're working with these women to allow them to be the change agents in their own companies or in companies that they're speaking with. And same thing with the girls. We're trying to bring in more talent so that they are able to continue to change the culture as well. But directly, we are actually launching culture consulting. So we are working with companies to help them to actually create a better culture, because we don't feel that women and girls should need to change or that other diverse people should need to change. It's the companies and the culture that needs to change so that it's welcoming for everyone. And if we can do that, I'm really excited to see what kind of amazing progress we can make in products and services that we're currently offering in technology. And as we all know, technology affects every industry. So what kinds of leaps and bounds can we make if we're actually pulling from all these diverse and people from diverse environments with diverse ways of thinking about things? I think that's going to be a really exciting thing, because if we've gotten this far with being so dominated by one particular gender and one particular race, just think of that multiplied by 50, and I think that's what the kind of exciting things that we can do.
Is there been something in your experience that has been that maybe these companies didn't know they were doing that is easy to fix right away to be more inclusive? That maybe there was just, because I find that it's almost like racism. When you meet a racist, they don't think they're racist. That's part of the problem, is they don't ever think that they're part of the problem. And I find that companies that have a difficult and sexist culture don't feel like they have that issue, because it's all white men, and they don't understand why there's a problem, because they're having a great time. So, is there something that that you guys can do that is one of these simple and effective techniques that might be able to at least move the needle a little bit towards more inclusivity?
Yeah, so the big thing, so first of all, there was a study that was done that they published, I think, early March, that was around how many people don't think that there's an issue around gender in technology, and it was like 68% of men and somewhere between 20 and 30% of women don't think there's an issue, despite the pay gap and despite all these stories of discrimination and harassment and all the 56% of women who are leaving before year 10. A strong majority of people don't believe there's an issue. And so a lot of it is just awareness that there's a problem. And the fact that we still don't have that means that any change efforts that we try to do are going to be met with resistance. So that's, if we have, and there are plenty of companies like this, if you have a company, the first thing that I would strongly suggest is doing unconscious bias testing. So there's one by Harvard. So if you search for implicit bias, Harvard, you'll be able to find a page, and it's all about there's all these different tests to do implicit bias testing. But there's one in particular that's around gender and science. So that's an interesting one, because it opens your eyes to how biased you are one way or the other, and a strong majority of people are pretty biased towards combining men in science and women with liberal arts. So that would be the first step, and then finding a consultant, either us or somebody else, who will even do just a 1 hour unconscious bias training, just to continue to help people open their eyes. And I know that a lot of companies are doing this, but they're making it optional. I don't think it should be optional. Just like if you're doing sexual harassment training, just like if you're doing, training around racism, unconscious bias affects, all diverse people and people who, just think differently, right? Because it's just stereotyping, but that biases you in particular ways for or against particular people, right? And I think it should be mandatory. I think that if you're a company who cares about diversity, you should make unconscious bias training mandatory for all of your employees, and then go from there in terms of looking for that unconscious bias in all of your recruitment and all your promotional processes everywhere. And that's, it's a once you have more than, pretty much any people, it's a multi-year deal, right? You're not going to be able to fix it in the next couple of months because, again, it's a societal issue. The unconscious bias is in everyone. But you're never going to fix it unless you start.
And that's the problem with unconscious bias, is that you're not aware of it because it's unconscious bias versus bias. So
and most people aren't even, they're not aware of it. Like you were saying, they're not doing it to be malicious. They're not doing it to be bad people, and it's not just men, it's not just women, it's not just white people, it's not just black people. Everyone has it because we've all grown up in the same society. We've all been given the same messages. And I just had a conversation last night with somebody, and he asked that question: do women, if we had women in those roles, would we have the same issues? And I'm like, yeah, if you're not controlling for unconscious bias, or if that person isn't aware of their unconscious biases, women are just as biased towards men and science as men are.
Well, I want people to know more about ChickTech. So how can a young girl listening, which I'm not sure I have a lot of young girl listening, but I do have a lot of mothers who listen who have young girls, and I do have a lot of women in tech listening. Where can they contact you and find out more about ChickTech?
So definitely go to the website. If you go to our main website, chicktech.org, you can go on to the locations page. You can see all the chapters that are up, and you can click on the links and contact your local chapter. You can also reach out to me through the contact form, and I'll get your message and I can send it on to the correct person. It's just info@chicktech.org. Definitely check out in your local area. If you don't have a chapter in your local area and you're interested in starting one or running, say, a middle school or an elementary school camp, which is something we've recently, in the last couple of years, started doing. If you just want to run one of those camps because you think your daughter would love it and there's nothing else there for her yet, reach out to us and maybe we can start something for winter break, or we can start something for next summer that will start getting the young girls who have all this amazing aptitude to start thinking of themselves as technologists and in a positive way. And if you're the young woman in your life is in high school and you're in an area with a ChickTech chapter, definitely reach out to them. Our registration process, it's first come, first serve. They can go onto the website. They can register starting in September, October, depending on the chapter and when they're kicking off in November. But it's a free program. There's no reason not to do it. And especially if they're not thinking of themselves as technical, this is the perfect opportunity.
And chapters are always looking for volunteers. So, and of course, if you're a company or you're an individual, you can always donate. No donation is too small or too large.
Yes, that is true.
Well, I think you do a great job. Like I said, when I ran across the booth of the local chapter here, I immediately said I need to talk to these people because anything we can do to promote not only tech but tech for women is fantastic. And so I appreciate what you do, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the show. Thanks to Janice for coming on. Listen, I'm serious about this review stuff. Please go to iTunes, leave a review. 5 stars would be best. I would really appreciate it. Also, any comments, questions, or guest suggestions, go to Craig at speakercraigprice.com. See you next week.